last memory I remember? Well, it was a Halloween night. I remember being at my grandparents' house. Then I suddenly woke up. And it was a situation every kid dreads to its bone. I was all alone, lying on the couch. It's all blur. I think my mom left the house with my grandmother to buy some things for the night. While the specifics of the memory may have faded over time, the strong emotions from that moment remained vivid. And I have to say, I never felt so much desperate ever since. Just a little kid, 6 or 7. I remember rubbing my eyes and wiping away my tears among my quiet screams as I called for my mother. Suddenly, I heard these grumps all over the house. The sun was setting, and the surroundings started to get darker and darker. Looking at it now, I can't believe the pressure I was holding on as a kid. The grumps started to change directions all the time. But the source was upstairs. I was calling anyone I could think of. My mom, my grandma, and then I thought about my grandpa. Maybe he was around. So I called his name. "Grandpa, are you there?" I said. I had no idea where I was going. Everything was terrifying to me, mostly the curtains. Oh, I still hate those long curtains. Every time I looked through them, I could see someone standing behind them. So I decided to move upstairs only to avoid those curtains. As I stepped forward, I heard those thumping sounds more and more clear. After a few steps, I was there. Only a dim light was coming through the window across the hallway. Up there, nothing could be heard or even seen, except for those thumbs, which now appeared to be combined with the faint murmurs of a man. I remember now the feeling. It was as if I was stuck in hell. It was truly terrible. I was wandering door to door looking for someone just to pull me out of there. But no one was around. Finally, I decided to listen closely to that eerie murmur, which seemed to echo through the space even more clear. I could recognize a familiar voice. A weird chanting with a deep voice, an ominous vibe. And it hit me. I found myself at the staircase, reaching towards the attic, a wooden path that I'd never had a good feeling about. In fact, whenever I used to play upstairs, I'd always avoid even looking at that strange door. But now, it was slightly ajar, with a dim red light seeping through the crack. Meanwhile, I could recognize that familiar voice, which was my grandpa's. I couldn't feel anything, and when I tried to scream for help or my grandpa's name, my voice seemed to be trapped in my voice box. It was only 2 options, hanging around in the house, which now was completely dark, and going upstairs, probably find my grandpa. For a 6-year-old, it was an easy choice to make. I would go upstairs. As I was going up, step by step, one by one, by every step I could hear a familiar voice more and more clearly. A mixture of hope and fear was taking on me. It was okay. It was Grandpa. As I reached the door and making sure everything was going to be okay, yes, it was Grandpa's voice. It was himself. Everything is okay. And I saw something I couldn't believe. A scene that froze my heart right in its tracks. At that age, everything seems magnified and hits you even harder. It was surely one of them. Grandpa. He was standing there, dressed up all in a clown costume, doing these bizarre dances and moves. I froze in my place, almost choked. But then suddenly, I let out a scream, and I can't remember what happened next. Only thing comes to my mind is that I couldn't even look my grandpa in the eyes for years later.